Thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your Two Shelf. Today I'm filming in a little pop-up tent in the back garden. I've got a little sunshade tent and it's a place where it's a little bit quieter, so I've just gone in here. So this is a really belated wrap-up of the books that I read in the month of March. So two that I actually completely forgot about in February that I need to just add in at the beginning. So the first one was a DNF. It was Eve of Man by Tom and Giovanna Fletcher, and I just didn't really get on with it. It wasn't really my thing, so I got it from the library. I renewed it loads of times before I picked it up, and then I DNF'd it probably after about 70 pages. It's a YA book which is set in a place where there's only one female left on the whole planet, and she is at the age where they're trying to match her with a partner so that she can start having children and hopefully have some female babies. So it felt a little bit like The Hunger Games, but not done nearly as well, and I just didn't really get on with it, so I just decided to not carry on with that one, but I just wanted to give it a mention. And then the other one, which I don't know how I forgot because it was brilliant, is Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls by Madden. So this is one that I saw recommended on Mercedes' channel, and then when I was doing, so one of the Reading Women Challenge squares is to read a book from the Reading Women Prize shortlist, and that was on the shortlist, and so I thought that I would reserve it from the library, and I had a copy in Norwich. So it's basically Madden's memoir of what it's like growing up in a somewhat chaotic, crazy childhood. So it's mainly about her relationship with her parents. So her mum is, now forgive me if I get this wrong, her mum is, I think, maybe Chinese, maybe Korean, can't remember, and her dad is white, so she's mixed race, and she has experiences a lot of racism from people, both in her family and in her school. She's also is sexually assaulted when she is about 13 by older boys at school, and her parents are very dysfunctional, so she absolutely adores her dad, but her dad is a gambler, a drinker. Him and her mum both use cocaine, and so they sort of leave her for quite long periods of time sometimes, or she has to go and stay with family members. And she's written this, like, the memoir's written in a series of short essays, and it's done so well, like it's not in chronological order, but her writing style is fantastic, and how she describes is very honest and raw, and how I'm here, yeah, and how despite the fact that her relationship with her parents is really dysfunctional and very difficult, how much she loves them. It's really amazing. I'd really recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. So moving on to March, the first book I read in March was Queenie by Candice, Carty-Williams, which I'd heard about from Lauren and the Books First, I think. Another 5 stars. It's brilliant, and it's actually now on the long list for the Women's Prize for Fiction. It's about Queenie, who's in her early 20s. She is a black woman living in London, and it's about her. So at the beginning of the book, she's split up with her boyfriend, they're on a break, and she is having a miscarriage, and that's how it starts. And then we go on to learn about her other relationships that she has while she's on this break with her boyfriend. We don't know if they're going to go back together or not. She meets some like absolutely hideous men, and she makes really unwise decisions about some of the relationships that she has and how abusive some of them are. But she experiences a lot of racism as well from other men especially, and everything sort of starts sliding down, like her career and her friendships and stuff. But she's got a really strong group of friends, which she calls the Corgis because she's the queen, and the chats, there's quite a lot of sort of WhatsApp chats and things that are in the text of the book. So yeah, the she lives with her grandparents for a while, and her grandparents from the Caribbean, and very strict, very traditional, but the relationship she has with them is an absolute joy to read. How I love books where it focuses on sort of the day-to-day family life, and you get to see like them just eating their meals, talk about what they do in the house sort of day-to-day, about just how their relationships with each other sort of bring comfort, I guess, and I just really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad it's on the Women's Prize long list as well. So that was another 5-star. Then the next one I did was a buddy read with Sean and Bert from Her Story Time, and that was Charlotte from Tired Mama Tries to Read, and that was In a Summer Season by Elizabeth Taylor. It's not the actress. Never read any Elizabeth Taylor before. This was written, I think, in about 1960, or is set in the 60s. It might have been written slightly later. It's about a woman called Kate, and she is about, I'd say, in her 40s, I think, and she's married a guy called Dermot, who is her second husband, and he's 10 years younger than her, and he is a bit of like a dosser, basically. Like he's not got a career, or he's very work shy, and Kate's got 2 children who were sort of late teens, and it's kind of just about their relationship with each other. And then it's about when, halfway through the book, Kate's best friends, so her best friend who's a woman, she died, and her husband, who's now a widow and a child, he comes to stay with them, or comes to stay nearby, and it's about how the relationship dynamics change when he comes to stay with his daughter, who's also a teenager. So really enjoyed it. It was not pacey, but really well written. It was really nice to read it with Sean, Bert and Charlotte, and so I gave that one 4 stars. Then I read another buddy read. So I read tense really pissed me off. I read Sweet Francaise by Irene Nemirovsky with my friend Nancy as a buddy read. This is another 5-star read. So I've had this on my shelves for ages, and I just wanted to use the opportunity to do the buddy read to read it next. It was written in the 1940s. Irene Nemirovsky was sadly taken prisoner as a Jewish woman, and she was killed in one of the camps. And so this novel was supposed to be 5 parts long, but only the first 2 parts got published before she was taken and killed. So it stops after the second part. It's a story of, the first part is about when the both parts are set in France. The first part is about when the French are fighting the Germans, and then the second part is when the Germans occupy Paris. So the first part, everyone's kind of fleeing and trying to run away, and then in the second part they're living side by side with the Germans. The Germans are living literally in their houses, and it's about all the conflicts, because the German soldiers are actually like really gracious, really kind. They get them a lot of sort of extra food. They have parties, they're very courteous when they're staying in people's houses, and so it's about the conflict when the French people start to like them and start to form relationships and bonds with them, yet some of their family members are sort of have been killed or are prisoners of the Germans. So it's really interesting to read the dynamics of the relationships, and it's really really well written. You really care about the characters. It follows quite a few characters, and at the end there's sort of notes, sort of appendices at the end, which have some of her notes in about what her plans were for the rest of the book. You get to sort of find out what was going to happen in the next 3 parts in a very rough way. But I was really sad that we lost such a talent, in such a terrible way, and I was really sad that we're never going to be able to read those last 3 parts of the book. But it was fantastic. It was a really good one to buddy read. Then I read, the next one was an audiobook, which was Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. This one definitely has stayed with me. It's basically interlinked short stories, so I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a novel, but Olive is the centrepiece of quite a few of the stories, and in other stories she's just a fleeting character. It's about a community in Maine in America, and Olive is, throughout the book, she's sort of in her late 50s to mid 60s, and she lives with her husband Henry. They have a son called Christopher. We know that Olive's quite a difficult person. She's very forthright, she's very opinionated, she's very strong-willed, but she makes a great character to read about, and it's about how she interacts with members of the community and her family and the difficulties they have in their relationships. At the beginning I had mixed feelings because some of the chapters are quite depressing, and some of the stories are quite sad, and I was finding it all a bit of a grind, but then as it went on it picked up, and there was more sort of happier stories and more interesting relationships. I definitely read the stories where Olive was the main character. The narrator was really good at doing Olive, but I did feel that she gave a lot of the female characters a similar tone, similar voice, which didn't work for me all the time. There's a second one called Olive Again or something like that, but that's also interlinked short stories, so I don't know whether I'll read that one. If I do, I'll probably give it a year or so, but I definitely enjoyed that one and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I read was the second Tilly and the Book Wanderers middle grade book, which I read for middle grade March, so that was Tilly and the Lost Fairytales. So Tilly is a book wanderer. Basically means that she can enter into the pages of books as she reads them, and the characters can come out of books and interact with her. She lives in a bookshop with her grandparents, and it's basically her. I can't really say too much because obviously it's the second in the series, but it's her and her best friend go on more sort of book wandering adventures, this time with a focus on fairy tales. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. So the first one I gave 5 stars and this one I gave 4 stars. But basically, the second one, the first one is about her sort of learning how to book wander, and there's a sort of a crime which takes place, and the second one is about her wandering into fairy tales, and I'm not the massivest fan of fairy tales. I think that's what sort of put me off a little bit. So it features things like Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk, Rapunzel. I loved fairy tales when I was a kid, but I'm not massively into fairy tales anymore, so I think that's why it was 1 less star for me. And then the final one that I read was I read an Irish book for the Irish Readathon, and that was The Gathering by Anne Enright. So I read one Anne Enright last year or the year before, which was The Green Road, which I really loved. This one was basically about a group of 9. There was 12 siblings initially, 9 of them are still alive, the Hegarty family and their mum, and one of the boys, Liam, has been very troubled, and he has committed suicide when he was about 30ish, early 30s. And this is like he's told from his sister Veronica's point of view, who was really close to him. And it says they go and collect his body, and they all gather for the funeral in Dublin. And I think it's Dublin, maybe it's not Dublin, it's in Ireland anyway. And it's about sort of the family dynamics between all of them. We know something really dark happened to Liam when he was a child at his grandmother's house, and so it's kind of building, and it's relying on the memories of his sister, and she doesn't always trust her own memories, so she's possibly an unreliable narrator, although not intentionally. So it talks all about the relationships in the family and quite a dysfunctional family, and how it all led up to Liam killing himself, basically. So it's quite a dark book. I think I gave it 3 stars in the end. It actually won the book prize. It was just, there was loads of her imagining her grandparents having sex, and I just found that really weird. That I don't really know why that was in there, but I didn't really like it. And I just found it's probably not the right book to read at the current time, because I kind of like reading more uplifting stuff at the moment, and this was very dark, but I sort of got all the Irish books that I had off my shelf, and I thought I'll read the first few pages of each one and decide which one to read, and then I ended up just not putting that one down. I picked that up second, and I got really into it really quickly, but then it sort of fizzled out a bit for me, and I found it a bit too troubled for current times. But so I've given that one away now. But anyway, so that was a 3-star finish, but I think I had a brilliant month overall because most of the books were 4 or 5-star reads. So let me know if you've read any of those books, or if you want to read any of them, and let me know if you joined in with Middle Grade March or the Irish Readathon, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.